Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, I have a very special guest here for the show. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Sure, I'm Wes Farnsworth, and I am located in Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Okay, and can you tell me extensively about your past leading up into your present?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up as a pastor's kid in Michigan and saw God provide in many, many different ways throughout my life. But unfortunately, as a pastor's kid, I kind of experienced some self-inflicted, I guess you could say, pressures of needing to feel like I had to act or uh, say certain things or act a certain way to reflect positively on my parents and who were both in ministry. And that led me down a road of codependency where I cared more about what other people thought about me than what God thought about me and who I really was. And all of that led to an addiction, a 20-year addiction in pornography that took me up into my adult life. Um, and uh, it was back in about 2019 that I found Celebrate Recovery, and I became very active in that ministry. And through that ministry, and by the grace of God, I was finally able to defeat the addiction. And that led me to writing my book, The Blueprint of Becoming, a practical guide to faith, failure, and finding your way forward, which just came out here about a week and a half ago on October 14th. And through that, I share my personal testimony and the things that I experienced growing up and the journey of my addiction. And I discuss biblical principles around stepping into who God has called you to be. And we take a look at some stories of the Bible of people that God used despite their past. And I share practical tips with the readers on things that they can do to step into their becoming and step into the person that God has called them to be. I'm a father of 4 kids, and so they keep me pretty busy.
So can you tell me that's a good thing. Can you tell me how do you go to sexual addiction classes like you know how NA or AA is? And another question in conjunction with that is how have you brought your family together through you being open and honest with them about your addictions and stuff?
Yeah. So the first part of that would be yes, but not sexual integrity classes specifically. So Celebrate Recovery. The one thing that's nice about that, when people think of addictions, they think of AA or NA, which is for alcoholics and narcotics. Where CR is for everything. It's a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program that's for any kind of a hurt, any kind of a habit, any kind of a hang up or addiction. Only 1 in 3 people that go to Celebrate Recovery are there for drugs or alcohol. The rest of us are there for just life issues, whether it be addictions to things like pornography or overeating or body image issues or whatever it might be. Or it could just be hurts like, a broken relationship or something along those lines. And it gives you a safe place to be able to share and walk through those things with other people that will love you and be there for you no matter what you're going through and what you've done. So it's a really powerful program because it not only does it give you that safe space, but again, it's Christ-centered, which is amazing. So I've been a part of that now, as I said, for almost 6 years and absolutely love it. And now I'm able to, through that program, now that I have experienced the journey and recovery for myself, I'm now able to help other people, which is really rewarding. And then on the family front of it, I've been able to be vulnerable and honest with my family and be like, hey, this is the things that I've gone through, and begun the process of making amends to them. I was married, and unfortunately, as a part of the coming clean process and things like that, the addiction did end up causing me my marriage. But I've been able to show my kids like it's important to be honest and So my two older kids, I have two younger kids and two older kids. Younger kids outside of their area of understanding at the moment. So, but I've had the conversation with my older kids and be like, look, this is who I am. This is what I have struggled with. You're both old enough now that the temptations and the curiosities are going to be there for you, about the opposite sex. These are the things that I've done. It's not worth it. Don't go down those roads. Talk to me, talk to your mom, talk to, your pastor, talk to somebody. But let's make sure we're experiencing and we're exploring those curiosities, I guess you could say, in a healthy way instead of a destructive way, getting into things like pornography and things like that, which will only set you up for failure in the future instead of success.
Well said. What personal experiences from your time as a pastor's kid, shape? Hold on for a second. My computer is going haywire. Let me try to read from here. What personal experiences from your time as a pastor's kid shaped the themes of hidden struggles and performative faith in the blueprint of becoming? You can go ahead and answer while I try to fix my computer, okay?
Sure. Yeah. So, growing up, I kind of shared this a little bit. Growing up as a pastor's kid, um, whether it's true or not, you kind of feel like you're put on a pedestal and you have to act a certain way and do certain things in order to reflect positively on your parents and the church and God and all that fun stuff. And so that led to me becoming that master chameleon, as what I like to call myself in the book, and being able to blend into just about any environment and being codependent on what other people thought of me, and the way I was acting and things that I was saying. And all of that led to me losing myself. And so it was very hard for me up until just a couple of years ago, even, to really know who I was, what it was that I was feeling, what it was I was thinking, what my opinion was on any given matter, because I was always finding myself trying to think about what the other person wanted me to say or wanted me to think or anything like that. And so it was hard for me, and I had to go through a lot of different processes and counseling and things like that to really begin to learn to separate those things and try to identify, myself in there, that inner voice. And so that was a big part of me and big part of my upbringing that had an impact on me and my journey to becoming. And then I look back at my upbringing, where I saw God move and provide for me in many different ways growing up. I had a 16-year-old brother that unfortunately was killed in a car accident.
I'm sorry.
And it was a very tragic and probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my entire life. Because he was there one day and gone. He was there in the morning and gone in the afternoon. It was just, it's an instantaneous thing. And we were at that time a single income family, and we didn't have the money to pay for his funeral expenses or anything that goes with that. And God stepped in and provided for us in a very real way, and provided for every expense, provided the coffin, provided the opening and closing of the graveside, provided everything. There was literally nothing that my family had to pay for. And as you know, if you've ever been through a funeral, it's very expensive. And so, it just was really and that's just one story of many where I saw God provide for my family in times of trial. And that has carried with me and stuck with me into my adult life. And even today, I'm sitting here as I'm doing this interview with you, the end of October 2025, and I am approaching on November 1st, my 8th month of being unemployed because I just cannot find a job. I'm applying to jobs I'm qualified for. I'm applying to jobs I'm overqualified for, and I'm getting nothing but rejection emails, even from local gas stations, because the job market is just really, really hard. And I'm now to a point where My unemployment has run out, so I have no government funding coming in to help subsidize. And so I am 100% reliant right now on God to provide, and He is doing it time and time again. And I wouldn't have that kind of faith and that kind of trust in God to be able to provide for me if I didn't have those experiences growing up as a pastor's kid and seeing Him provide for me through my life, to be able to rely on and lean on today.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Oh, I'm so sorry, and I'm so glad that God is providing to you despite the unemployment running out. Um, as a U.S. Air Force veteran who photographed everything from war zones to presidential inaugurations, how did those high stakes moments influence your perspective on turning brokenness into purpose?
Yeah, uh, my time in the Air Force is something I would never trade. I absolutely loved serving in the United States Air Force and being a part of it. And as a photographer, photojournalist, I was able to see and do a lot of things. As you mentioned, I photographed a presidential inauguration. I was in Afghanistan for 9 months, and I've been able to do everything from sporting events to crime scenes. I've done a wide range of things. And the one thing that really has stuck with me from that is just how you cannot take things for granted. I think back, especially in my time in Afghanistan, you see a country there that I was literally seeing rebuilt in front of my eyes during my time there. And I saw the level of essentially poverty and the way people were living there. And we're back home complaining that our AC doesn't work, very well, or our heater isn't working, or we only have ramen noodles to eat, or whatever it might be, and they're very first world problems, as we like to say. When when I'm in Afghanistan, and I literally see locals jumping onto the back of a trash truck and pulling our trash off the trash truck to look for any kind of scraps, any kind of things that they can take to sell or salvage, to be able to make their lives better. And so it really just sat with me and was like, we have it really good here in our country, and there's a lot of countries that don't have what we have. And so we just need to stop taking those things for granted.
Yeah, I agree. There are other countries that are like almost a half a century behind us in some countries or even continents. So, tell me about the presidential inauguration. Who did you film? And tell me about something good that you saw from Afghanistan that you see that is positive and shows a future for the Afghan people.
Yeah, the presidential inauguration, it was President Barack Obama's second inauguration that I photographed. And that was just an amazing, amazing experience. I mean, literally photographing history. And it was so cool to be a part of. And it's a day that I'll never forget. Actually, here in my apartment, I've got one of the photographs that I took that day, that I had printed out, and he actually signed for me. So
Is
I've
it
got it.
nearby? Is it
Uh,
nearby?
I can grab it if you want
Go
me to.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. We need to represent. Wow, that is beautiful.
So yeah, so I was able to get the photo printed off and signed by him, and then I've got my credentials from the day displayed with them, and the whole nine. And it's just one of those really cool mementos that I'll always have with me and be able to use to remember that day by. So uh, what was it? Afghanistan. The one thing that Afghanistan has going for it is it's an absolutely beautiful country. absolutely beautiful. If it was not for the war, the wars that go on there and the constant fighting and things like that, they could make a killing in tourism. It's just so beautiful. But as a people, they're just so friendly. Like, there were very few people that I came across that were not friendly. They were all very welcoming. Their culture is, if you come up to their door, they invite you in and they offer you tea and they offer you food, and that's just their culture. They're very hospitable people.
What kind of food did they have?
The most common dish that we were served was called, if I remember correctly, it's called palau. It's a rice-based dish that has raisins and carrots mixed into it, and then traditionally it's served with lamb, and it's very delicious.
Wow, it sounds delicious. Wow. Okay. And like, how how long were you over there?
I was in Afghanistan for 9 months. Total deployment was a year because we had to do, training beforehand and then some stuff on the back end as we reintegrated back home. But so total deployment was a year, but I was in country for 9 months.
Now, was this I know this may sound like weird, but was this because of deployment that Obama had did? Because who was fighting during this war or whatever
I
was going on?
I was there as part of Operation Enduring Freedom.
Enduring Freedom. Okay. Okay. And how did your master's degree in business branding and in internet marketing equip you to help your ministries and churches communicate with greater purpose? And what role does that play in your speaking engagements?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've got a real passion for is helping churches and nonprofits better themselves and their visual identity. And so I've actually started a nonprofit called Service Ministries. Where it's currently in the application phase. It's sitting with the IRS right now, waiting for my 501c to be approved, 501c3 to be approved. So once the government reopens, hopefully they'll get to that, and I'll be able to get that approval. But I just have that passion for being able to come in and help churches with things like their branding and their marketing and their photography and video and all that fun stuff that helps them differentiate themselves from other churches in the area and really show people what they offer in order to bring in people that may be new to the area or just looking for a new church and help them in those areas. And so, and those are just a few of the services that I will offer. There's a whole wide range of things. But my time in the Air Force and my upbringing and all that it all plays into, this ministry that I'm starting, because growing up in a church, growing up as a pastor's kid, I saw the needs of what churches needed. And so now that I've got those experiences with my degree in branding and my degree in internet marketing and my degree in business administration, which is what my undergrad is in, I'm able to take all of those things and really combine them, excuse me, into the areas that I've seen the need of, and then come in and help churches do that type of thing. And then on the speaking side of it, I'm able to come in and speak with churches, on Sunday mornings or at men's groups or at conferences and say, here and really just be real and honest and vulnerable with them about the things that I've gone through in my life, my addiction, my upbringing, and just tell them stories and examine biblical principles that go along with them, and just essentially share my heart with these groups of people. And so that's what I do when I go and I speak.
I want to go to speak and start at a NA, a Narcotics Anonymous. Like I I went to a AA, but NA is a good place to start because it's like-minded people with, addictions to prior drugs, and you can just go and you can talk,
Mhm.
and you can get your story heard. So tell me about being a pastor's kid. How did it feel and how does it feel? What different things come like, do you have friends outside of church, or do you keep it within the church?
Yeah, I mean, my upbringing as a pastor's kid definitely played into my recovery. Because for a while I was very hesitant to even begin a recovery program and go to a recovery program, because I was afraid that by admitting I had a problem to people that I didn't know, it would reflect negatively on not only myself but my parents and those that were around me when I was being brought up. And that was not something that I wanted to do. And now, granted, the people that I was going to talk to didn't know my parents from Adam and didn't know, and so, but those were all things that kind of played into my head and not getting help sooner. But now that I'm in it, like, I could care less who I talk to. I wouldn't be doing national podcasts and, things like that, talking about my addiction if I was still worried about that, because I know that by being willing to talk about the things that I've gone through, I can hopefully come alongside and encourage somebody else and help them stop from making, hopefully stop them from making some of the same mistakes that I have made. And so, as far as friendship goes, I have friends that don't go to church necessarily, but I would say my close friends, the people that I really let speak into my life and have input into my life, are definitely friends that are either from church or I know are a part of the Celebrate Recovery ministry. And I've seen them work the program, and I've seen what God has done in their life. And so I give them a little bit more input, if you will, than the friends that are not a part of Celebrate Recovery or not a part of the church, because I definitely want the biggest influence in my life to be from godly people.
Wow. Yeah, I would want the people that are in my life to be godly people, because if you are what you eat, or birds of a feather flock together. So if you keep
Yep.
good people on your side, then you'll be good. What is your religion, and how have you changed it since you've gotten older? Like, does your family still influences the same religion, or have you swayed towards a different religion?
Yeah, no, I grew up Assemblies of God, and over the years I've attended a few different, I guess you could say, really different churches to the nation, really, like in Bible or Baptist. But at my heart, I've always kind of been Assemblies of God. This is how I was brought up, Assemblies of God, Pentecostal, and it just, I, I'm a I'm currently kind of in the process where I don't necessarily fully believe in religions, or not religions, excuse me, denominations. Because every denomination, there's a lot of denominations out there that are almost identical. There's just one or two very small things that separate them, or something along those lines. So when I personally am looking for a church, I take a look at the back, I take a look at their beliefs and that type of stuff, make sure that I agree with those things. But then I also, when I listen to the preaching, I just make sure that it's biblical preaching and they're not adding their own flavor to it and making the Bible say something that it doesn't say. So going back to the question, Assemblies of God, again, is how I was brought up, and that's the type of church that I still attend, because I love how biblically based they are, and don't tend to put their own flavor of things, in my experience, and so that's where I go.
So what you're saying is all religions, like certain religions, are like similar, but they have like one or two things that are needs to be that are different, and that makes them different. But they all pray to one God. It's just one God, right?
I
One
wouldn't
benevolent
say
God.
I wouldn't say religions are that way. It's more denominations.
Denominations. Okay.
Yeah, because there's when you look at religions and you look at like Buddhism and Judaism and Catholics, and like they pray to different gods or different parts of that. Whereas when you look at religions or denominations like Open Bible and Assemblies of God, or Baptists, they all pray to God. They all pray to Jesus. There's just certain things that are different with their core beliefs or and things along those lines. So you just have to really be careful and do your research and figure out which denomination best aligns with what you believe and what God is telling you.
Okay. And do you see life challenges in your life as repetitive, where now that you have started over a new leaf with the pornographic addiction, you see challenges come up that's like, hey, like a pop-up on the internet, hey, join the party or something like that, or anything, do you see life challenges as being like aggressive in that way, and how do you take it, and what do you do to overcome life challenges?
Yeah, the one thing that is unique with all, or I would say consistent with all addictions, is once you're addicted, you're always addicted, right? You're never completely free of it. So there's always going to be challenges, just like, somebody that's been addicted to alcohol, you don't want them going to a bar to hang out because there's always going to be that challenge there, right? Somebody with an addiction to things like pornography, it's a little bit harder because that would be like saying, don't ever get on the internet. Well, that's next to impossible in today's day and age, especially when I'm doing things like podcasts and running a nonprofit ministry and have a book out there that I do, different things online for marketing. And so there is always those things that could pop up. But I've been very diligent about setting up things in my life that help prevent me from going down those roads. I go out there, and every so often I'll be on Facebook or some social media platform in a group that I joined, 15 years ago that's been sitting inactive. Will suddenly pop up and somebody will post a photo and I'll be like, no, I don't want to be like, and I'll go in and I'll leave the group, and those things happen because in my experience, those are typically the works of the enemy trying to get you to come back down that road. As I've been doing more things with my book and speaking life into people's lives and been more active in my church and speaking now on Sundays and preaching, on Sunday services and doing things like that. Those are things that the enemy does not want me doing. And so there's warfare that goes on where he's going to do things to try and discredit me or make me want to go back down roads that I don't want to go down. And so he'll make it so that images pop up at random times that I'll see or whatever. And I just am very sensitive to that. And I will go in and make sure that I leave those groups. And I'm honest with them, honest with the people within my Celebrate Recovery program, my sponsor and my accountability team. And I'll be like, hey, I was just on the internet yesterday doing this, and this random image popped up, and I went in and made sure I deleted it or left the group or whatever the case may be. But I'm just very honest and open with the people that are in my lives that have earned that right. So that when things like that happen, they don't stay in the darkness and they don't remain a secret. Because when you let things like that remain in the darkness, then in your brain they become secret, and that secret becomes something that you will hide at all costs, and that then in turn also gives the enemy a foothold in your life, and it just allows them another way to drag you back into the addiction over time. And so by being raw and honest and vulnerable with people, when I'm at my recovery meeting every week about things that have happened that week, just how my life is going, I talk about the highs and the lows of my life. If I had a rough day with my kids, I talk about it. If I had a rough day applying for jobs and I got 15 million rejection emails, which seems to be every week now, I talk about it. And I just am like, you know what? Life right now, it sucks. It's hard. Like, but I get that stuff out and I vent it in a healthy way instead of letting it sit in the shadows where then the enemy can use it and manipulate it.
Wow, well said. Okay, last question. Where do you see yourself going in the future? And yeah.
Yeah, so I'm currently working. As I said, I've got about 14 days now. The book has been out. Again, it's Blueprint of Becoming. I'm currently working on a couple more books. One of them is right now in the editing phase. So I'm hoping that'll be out probably sometime next year. And then I'm also working on just continuing to book more engagements and being able to go and speak with people and share my story. You know, whether it's a church men's group or a conference or whatever it might be, more podcasts and just getting out there and sharing my story, and just stepping into that calling that God has placed on my life. And then I've also taken my book and I've developed a leader's guide or a group study guide for that. So if you go out to my website, theblueprintofbecoming.com, you can actually go out there and download a study guide that will go along with my book. And it takes my book and turns it into a week study for groups. And I include both a leader's guide and a participant's guide in the bundle. It's completely free. And you can just go out there, download that, buy my book, and sit down and go through it. And over 10 weeks together and work together as you begin to step into your becoming and identifying the things in your life that maybe you need to change. Because one thing I've experienced in my time within recovery is recovery and changing your life and changing your habits are not things that are easy to do alone, right? They're a lot easier to do when you have somebody that can walk alongside you and you can be accountable to. And so that's why I've done this. I've taken the book, which you can do on your own, but I encourage you to start a group, even if it's just you and one other person, and go through the book together and answer the questions that I've laid out in every chapter, and really just work through it together you will then have somebody with accountability that you can challenge each other and grow together.
Okay. And how can the people reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me via my website, blueprintofbecoming.com, or for more information on speaking and things like that, you can find my website, wesleyfarnsworth.com.
Stay on the line. Thank you, everyone, for joining my show today. Y'all take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye.
Never waste my time. You are I want.